Hi, I'm Katie with Joyful Forklift, and this is Robin. Hi, Robin.
And hello, Katie.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you for taking the time to share your perspective and your path and your journey on and with joy. And it is an honor to be sitting here with you.
And likewise, you picked my favorite topic. Yeah. So,
well, that's a good sign.
Yes, it is.
Mine too. Well, so I would love to invite you to share basically how you want people to know about you. What is it that makes you Robin in the world? You know, how do you see yourself as a human in this world? And that would give us perspective on who you are and why we're here together.
Thank you. You know, I would love my number one description to be an encourager. I want to be a cheerleader that gets behind anybody of any age and says, you can do it, and just to hold them up. And that's kind of like your idea of the joy forklift. And I love that concept, you know, of just being behind and standing by someone. So,
yeah. So tell me more about what you do as a cheerleader.
Okay.
And because there are many things you do that, people can say they're a cheerleader, but you do actually cheerlead, not only for your work, but in the community. What are some ways that you put that into practice?
Well, currently, I'd say the biggest way is we do free public concerts. And so with all my students, we have a student ensemble. And several times a year, we will play out as a group, which gives them motivation in their lessons to learn new music. So there's always an ulterior motive. But I love the idea of encouraging other people, even if they're just a beginner, to get out there and do what they can. And then they get community. And I think the one side benefit I've seen from the past 12 years of having a studio is the friendships that have developed. And they're getting off together and doing their own side projects. I have group ladies that go to nursing homes a couple times a month. And so it's led from group classes to learning ensemble music, which is actually our own arrangements, to playing out for free. We don't do recitals because these adult students are not going to do that anymore.
No, there's a line.
they have bad memories from childhood.
Oh, yes.
So we do programs and we do concerts. And that's been the offshoot of developing and growing over the last years. But how my studio started, I don't know if that would be interesting or not. Or,
yes.
Okay.
And the instruments that you've incorporated into your studio and all of that.
So not to go too much detail, but growing up, had a mother who taught herself to play the organ. So she allowed me to play. Then the 8 years of piano organ lessons, you know, every Wednesday afternoon, which was a good foundation. But all I did learn from all of those years was how to read. I didn't learn to play by ear. I didn't use to improvise. It was just page by page through lots of books. So totally paper trained. And then fast forward many, many years later, we're working on the road. We've traveled for over 20 years full-time in 4 different RVs.
Wow.
And so from being on the road, that took us to all but maybe 3 or 4 states that we worked in. We were contractors for a restaurant chain.
Oh, my goodness.
And we actually cleaned and repaired the window blinds. So we were blind cleaners.
That's serious.
For over 20 years.
But you've seen some things.
Yeah. But what that did is, even though I hadn't done music for a lot of years, it just kind of went on the back burner, you know, into that back file cabinet where our music files can go. But being on the road all the time, we ended up stuck with a major breakdown near Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Really?
Groundhog Day. And there was a dulcimer festival at a nearby park, and we're stuck in a motel room. And I'm desperate for something to do. And I had seen hammered dulcimers many years before, thinking, oh, that's such a great instrument. I love the sound. I will never be able to afford one. So we went to the dulcimer festival, and long story short, bought my first dulcimer with the help of Mr. Visa and started playing that. And that instrument, and that's what these are behind us, are larger versions of it, that got me to learn to play by ear. until then, I didn't know you could learn. As an adult beginner in my mid-40s by then, I had no idea that that was available. It was kind of like my generation thought you're either born with it or you're not.
Yes.
So playing this instrument versus a keyboard, I totally had to listen and look for patterns. And it changed entirely music. 2 years later, I found my first harp, which is that little one over there. Oh. And so that began the harp journey. And then I started finding out that the two instruments were similar but complementary, but different enough that each one kind of supersized the brain and how you learn. I have several students that are currently learning both simultaneously.
Wow.
And I still can't understand how they help each other, but they do. In my case, it enabled me to not only be able to read, but actually then to not memorize the page, but memorize the patterns and the melodies and the chords to play by ear. And then that just opened up a whole nother world. Yeah. If we hadn't been on the road, I wouldn't have been able to go to the big festivals. We went to dulcimer festivals and the big harp events throughout the country, because a lot of them are back east. There's not as much out in the west.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what opened the doorway. Then when we landed here in Montrose to be helpful for family, that was 2014, and that was the beginning. Well, by that time, I was so lonely because I had no one to play with.
Yeah.
So starting my studio I was just looking for other people to play music with. And that was the beginning. It was that sense of, I want others to play with.
That was the intention.
That was it. And now this is the result, many years later. So
there's so many things that you just said that light my fire. And one of them is, I think, as a parent, and I have friends who are in the parenting weeds, they're so afraid of their child stepping away from an instrument. Many people quit at different stages in their lives. And I understand the fear, but like you, I have so many students who return to music later in life. And I wonder about that, the space, that the gap between, reading music on a page or on a paper on the organ, and then finding, the thing that I find so fascinating about a dulcimer, which I do not play, is the shape of it. It is so nonlinear to me. So it gets you completely out, in my imagination, of this formula to play music. And I think that's so interesting that was your introduction back into play, and then asking, well, why can't I learn by ear? So I did buy the book that came with cassette tapes. And being a reader, I went through every single page. I listened to the pieces because I didn't know folk traditional music at all. I came up through hymns, playing in churches, and the classical route. So this was like a whole nother world. Celtic music, never heard it, never played it. So it just kind of wow, there's a whole nother area that I've missed that happens to be where the hammer dulcimer can play anything, but it's especially used as a folk traditional instrument. But they're invented before pianos. These go back to the 800s. Amazing. So when you think about that, this is like the earlier version of a piano that you could take places. And the early ones that were made from scratch, they would use old piano strings to make them because that would recycle. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so there's an interesting shared history, but it's so quirky that once you understand it, you're thinking, this is brilliant. Whoever came up with, it's a trapezoid, whoever came up with the design was a genius, and every country has their own version of it. So they're worldwide, even though they might have started in the Middle East. We don't know for sure. But.
And the different shapes and everything. And having messed around a little bit because my mother-in-law has a dulcimer, I just think it's just so interesting. Gets you out of a container.
It does. Yeah. It just totally is. That's what I like about it, is that part of it.
Yeah.
But then versus the harp, when I started on harp, then I spent the first couple months picking out all my dulcimer tunes by ear. Like, where would this be on the harp? Well, the harp is a piano out of the box. It's linear, but it's in the same order. And so then after about a month or two, then I thought, okay, now I'm ready to start looking at harp music, which looks a lot like piano music. And then starting going from there. But my first harp was that cross-strung harp, which is set up like a keyboard. It has 2 rows of strings that crisscross. So that made sense to me as a self-learner because we're on the road. I don't have a chance to have a regular teacher.
Right.
But there's a lot of great tutorial books, and I'm the kind of person, I'll go through every page just to see what's there and then move on. But you're talking about the kids, and what has happened with 2/3 of my students are over 60 and the other third are school age. What I have heard from almost every one of my senior students is they had piano lessons as a child. They got to where they hated it. They quit. And then they have no music the rest of their lives till they're retired. And I'm thinking there's something wrong with our system. And so I decided early on, I'm not going to go page by page through every single method book that's out there. I'm going to let every student choose their own path. If it's not fun, if it doesn't give them joy, why bother? So their lessons are, what do you want to work on today? What music do you want to learn? What do you want to do next? And then I facilitate and encourage and cheer them on at the direction that they should go. And I think it's working because I see the results.
I think it's working too, Robin.
Well, and it's happier for me. I don't ask them to practice. I don't make assignments. I tell the parents I want them to play because they want to. I don't want it to be homework. I want it to be, when everything else is done, I get to play music. It's for me. And so that's kind of where I differ from a lot of other types of modalities is, it has to be joyful. And making music for the joy of it was early on. That was my slogan that I got from a book. And you can see there.
I actually can see it right over there.
that I got from a dulcimer festival, and I'd never heard of it. And it's for adult beginners. And since I didn't start till my mid-40s, I figure I totally get it. And then I have students that are starting in their 70s, and I have a couple in their 80s that are still at it.
And it's mind-blowing. Just a student I had yesterday who's in his 70s stopped, and we were laughing about how hilarious chords are and challenging. And he's like, am I making any progress? And I think that's an older way of thinking because we want the benchmark of here's a check, you did it. Here's a gold star, you did it. And it's harder to be fluid in that way for some of us. But your segue, making music for the joy of it, is so helpful.
Okay.
So I would love for you to, if you're able, to define for yourself the difference between joy and happiness. It's a tricky one, and sometimes we mean the same thing, but I think there's a nuance here, and a lot of people do. And I'm curious for Robin, what's the difference?
That's such a great question. I think part of it is joy can be a choice, and the offshoot of joy is happiness. It's almost like the side effect. So we can choose to embrace joy even in hard times, because there is something about every situation that can have a kernel of joy in it. But I think joy is something that's inside. It's deeper. I try to explain to my husband, because I spend a lot of time, this is my happy place, obviously. And when students come, we play side by side. I play with every single person that comes in here. And when I play, I feel joy. And I tried to explain that one day is just playing music, doesn't matter what instrument I'm on. I love them all. But the act of playing music just makes me feel joy. And I don't know if people who don't do music, I don't know if they can even understand that concept. There was a movie a long time ago, Chariots of Fire.
Oh, yes. I know the theme song.
Yeah. And Eric Liddell is running along the beach. And he explained it as that running, he could feel God's pleasure. That's joy. And that's when I feel closest and feel the happiest, is when I'm playing music, and especially when I'm playing with others. In our group classes, and we're playing all together, and I'm looking at these different faces and different ages and abilities, and I see the smiles and how hard they work. It's like, wow. When we play out, it doesn't get much better. It's, for me, it's like that's the ultimate joy. And I'm sure you know that from your experiences with the the choirs that you've done and
I mean, forgive me for this completely biased point of view, but I always tell my choirs that they're in the best team sport there is.
You're right.
You're
think
right.
So. It's true.
But I think there's something, I mean, the words for me, play are, that word is super important here. And play does not mean struggle free, pain free, even grief free, you know, but there's something to a community holding space for each other and offering a playful, I don't know, innovative musical line or their breath or running full, you know, throttle on the beach or something. I think there's something about play that is very important to joy. So I think you nailed it.
Oh, well, one of my sayings is I want to put the play back in music. One of the biggest enemies of joy is perfectionism. And I've had a few students who are perfectionists, and they can't help it by nature, especially if they're the oldest. That seems to be one of the things that comes with being in charge of your siblings. But a saying that I've read, it's not original with me, but I love quoting other people, is we're after progress, not perfection. And I remind my perfectionist students is like each week you're making progress, but don't expect to ever be perfect. I will never play perfectly. A good musician knows how to weave the errors and ubus into the arrangement where the audience doesn't know. And, you know, and even listening to recordings, if it's a piece that I'm familiar with, I'll hear something that's like, wow, that was pretty good. You know, it's like
pretty suave.
that was very clever, and they kept on going, and you know, that doesn't matter. So
that is such a beautiful example. I'm so curious about how people who go through episodes of pain and loss, and you could call that maybe for some people the same feeling as hitting a horrible note in front of a ton of people, right? That's maybe an experience of pain and embarrassment. But how the joy of creativity and play keeps you flowing forward or helps you connect to joy. And so I'm curious in your life, and again, whatever feels comfortable for you to share, but have there been moments where you've encountered you know, difficult situations, of course, and difficult grief or pain. And is there joy in there for you? And are you even aware of a skill or a process that you use to help you, you know, keep that within arm's length?
Yes. I have a couple of students who are dealing with severe grief. In one case, her beloved sister passed away, and she started lessons with me the next year after that.
Wow.
And then the other one, her own daughter died while they were vacationing in Uray. My gosh. Just had severe seizures, and they couldn't get to her in time to help her. And she was only in her 30s. So both of these dear ladies started taking harp partly as a way to process their grief. And so over the last couple of years of doing lessons with them and getting to know their story, and, you know, one thing nice about when you have a private lesson, you're one-on-one. And if you're a good listener, you get to hear more and more as they feel like sharing things. And in both of their cases, the harp has been part of their healer. And one of them is an author, and she just recently wrote a book, and she has a chapter in there called Helga the Healer, because the harp she borrowed from me, she named it Helga.
Helga the Healer.
And wrote this beautiful story, and how when she got to her first year anniversary for her sister, she took her small harp to Denver and sat at her sister's grave and played for her.
Oh my gosh.
And that was healing for her, because she was able to process, and she's getting her joy back. And she is one of the most joyful people naturally, but it's just been, she needed a tool and a way to express what you can't say. And that's another part of music, is it becomes the best therapy we can have. The other one with the daughter, the first year she went to Uray on the anniversary and took her small harp and sat there and wept and played by herself. Last summer, she invited me to go with her.
Wow,
so the two of us went and took small harps. And it was just by the side of the road in someone's yard, right by the sidewalk was the actual place. But they had a beautiful big backyard in Uray. and nobody was at the door. So I said, they had this like the little garden and chairs. I thought, you know what? We'll just go there and play, and then we'll ask later.
Ask for forgiveness.
So we sat there and started playing in their backyard. It was all open to the traffic, and cars are going by. And sure enough, the owner of the house came out, and we said hello. And I says, I hope you don't mind. I says, but we're here to play. And he says, I remember the day when that happened. Really? He saw the emergency vehicles come, and he was aware that her daughter had died aside their property. And he says, you play as long as you want.
Oh my gosh.
And so we did. And then we had a beautiful lunch, and it was a joyful time because this year when she went, we played together. There are a lot fewer tears, and she's starting to be able to work through it. But the harp was the thing that helped us to share that shared grief, and where I could come alongside her. And it was an honor to say, yes, I'll go with you. And in other times, I've played in, if I know someone in the hospital, I've played in their rooms many times. I'll just go in and just one-on-one sit next to their bed and play. At nursing homes, we've done similar thing. I've had times where hospice has called me and would you come, and we don't think they have long, and I just sit by the bed and play hymns for a while, and they usually are gone fairly soon. Wow. So these are areas where we can, but in doing that, I just feel so humbled to have a tool and a gift, and that does give me joy, even though it's a sad part of joy. It's seeing the comfort and the grief to help them get past that and to get their joy back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
and that's what music can do for us. And for my own self, if I'm feeling down, and we all have good and bad days, there's some times where I just need to sit and play. I just have to play for me. Just me and the harp. It's usually the harp because it's more resonant. You feel the vibrations. It's more of an actual physical thing. When we're playing a keyboard, we can feel and hear the vibrations, but it's not going through all of our body.
Right.
The harp is against us, and I can actually feel it, and I can feel it under my feet on a wood stage. So we're actually totally involved with these wonderful vibrations, which, as we now know, can be very therapeutic.
Yeah.
But also, I'll play songs that I just have to play. And about 20, 30 minutes later, it's like, I have my joy back.
Wow.
And so that's another thing, is I want my students to have something that will lift them up when I'm not there to cheer them on.
Yeah. And you're modeling that for them, and to be so present.
Yeah.
I think that's a piece that's so important to me in lessons. I've had people say things like, are you my therapist or my piano teacher? And I'm like, well, I'm not trained, but it's really the power of listening and the vulnerability of playing an instrument imperfectly through the learning process is such a powerful connector between two people. It can be if you allow it to be that way and you're listening. So I think that's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. One of my biggest mottos that I tell myself every day is listen more, talk less. I know that doesn't sound true, but it is.
I think that's this is an interview about you, so you're doing your job.
but I do, because, and then I also want the lessons. I want us to have laughter. And if we can laugh at ourselves, or like, wow, that was, really fun. I want there to be joy, and I want people to always feel better about themselves when they leave than when they came. And that's really important too, to always end on a happy note. Play me your favorite song before you go.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Because remember, ultimately, it's about play and relationship and connection. Yeah. That reminds me of a story I heard actually yesterday of a woman who had been studying environmental basically climate health, and she was also a philosopher and a poet, and went through a grief process, just seeing some of the things that are happening on the earth, and how, in trying to work through that, receiving some difficult realities, and withdrew, and then was invited back into the public sphere with a bunch of highly trained prestigious academics. So there may be 50 people in this room, and she didn't know how to talk to them at first. And what she did was she invited everybody to completely ignore their rank and their title and to come up to the microphone one by one and describe a moment where they felt grief about what they were working on. And in doing that, ironically, what started happening was more laughter. And that story, it makes me think about, people bringing a truth to a music lesson about a lost child in an incredibly traumatic situation. And that honesty, and how being honest with yourself and with other people about what you're experiencing actually creates joy, even though the sharing of it can be deeply painful. I don't know, does that resonate with you?
Yes. And that's part of the sense of community. I think people feel so isolated, like they're the only ones who feel that way, or the only ones who are in that situation. And that was the one thing that I was so hungry for, was to belong to like-minded people who share the same types of goals, and in our case, playing music together. But we need that. I had a lady, we just finished our end-of-the-year parties. I'm partied out today.
I'm impressed.
So I always have an end-of-the-year party for my students, mainly because I want to end the year with something fun. And so we do, silly name that tune, musical games, that kind of thing. And so we had an end-of-the-year party, but this year not everyone could come to that one. So yesterday we had our New Beginnings party with a different group. And in that group ended up being someone brand new who hasn't even played anything yet, but she was here having her computer repaired. And so, but they've just moved here 5 months ago, and she has yet to find any friends. And she's missing community. And I said, if you want to come back to the party, I says, you're welcome to. I says, I can give you community. So she did. She came to the party. I'm sure it was totally mind-boggling to her. But what's wonderful is everyone talked to her, and everyone made her feel welcome. And it was joyful. And that's what, now whether she ever comes back for lessons or not, that's totally up to her. But this is someone who's looking to fit in. Her husband has a full-time job, and she's looking for community. So I think, like your story, we're missing that. We need to have places where we feel safe and where we feel loved. And a shared interest is a great drawing point, because then you get the kind of people that you want to be with.
Right. There's a connector there, for sure.
Like with your choirs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all about the joy of making music, and not to harp on that. Sorry, that's a horrible pun.
Oh, that's okay. But I'm used to it.
Sure, but there must be in all kinds of communities, different ways. But I do agree. I think music. I mean, we've been making music as human beings since the beginning. And I just heard something about somebody learning how to play a talking drum and what that is, and how that was used in Africa to communicate information from village to village, thousands of years ago. And it's just been a part of our DNA forever. So I think we're in a good spot here.
I think so too.
We have close proximity to this really powerful gift. So I was wanting to ask you, how does our culture and our society influence joy? How does it define joy for us? And where is the work here? Because as you said, it's very easy to be isolated. And that is, we hear this everywhere, but I think the cost of that isolation is just immeasurable. So I'm curious, as you are seeing students, old and young, together and seeing the world change as it has, what are your thoughts on our culture?
Wow. I think our culture doesn't understand joy, and it certainly doesn't promote it. I think we're all in the have more plan. We're bombarded every day with, stuff and things that don't give us joy. And then people are disappointed, disillusioned. And even in the music world, I have a real sadness that what we have here in Montrose with our communities and what you and I are doing, they don't have that in the big cities. It's not in Grand Junction. It's not in Denver. I'm sorry, but
I left Denver.
And a part of it could just be the big city isolation. What I love about our smaller communities is we have, because we're smaller towns, we have ways to connect and to help each other and to grow as communities. But by and large, I don't think society understands what joy really is. They think it's in being happy because you have more stuff or more money.
Yeah. And it seems like they incentivize the feeling of not enoughness, right?
Yes.
Like we are not enough unless we have this, this, or this.
Yes.
So how do we as educators, cheerleaders, help people discover that within where I believe joy resides, as you were saying, and it comes from within in a sense of enoughness. How do we model that or teach that, you know?
You know, what's really fun for me is playing the harp for someone who's never seen one in person. And seeing the look of wonder on their face. And it is a sense of joy. It's a sense of surprise, like, wow, I'd never really seen one up close. I've never really heard one. And I think for my own self, the way to share the joy is to play for them and to always have, you know, the sensitivity of like, well, what do you want to hear? What kind of music do you like? Or I'll play you a favorite song if you just want to hear something. But to me, that's kind of a beginning. I've done that too with preschoolers, and it's really fun with them because I call it's the harp has a way of hushing little children. And so when I've had a chance to take it to preschools.
Should have used that in the elementary school.
Yeah. I've taken it to the preschools, and it's really fun is even before I say anything, I'll start playing. And then all of a sudden it's like a big blanket settles upon all of them. And they got this face of like, and they're just staring and like, wow. And that is so fun. And then afterwards, inviting them to come up and actually touch it and to play it.
You're very good about that.
And then, you know, let's play something that you can sing. Twinkle, Twinkle is one of my starting songs, you know. And I told the story about how Mozart, you know, that. And so I always everybody starts with Twinkle, Twinkle. And then, of course, they sing it loud and lusty, you know, and that kind of thing. But I think just sharing our music. And what I tell my students is the reason we do this is to play for others. It's not about us. Yeah, we put in a lot of time and work, and I call it harping in a vacuum. We spend a lot of hours to play and to learn and to grow. But the ultimate goal should be to get out of the practice room, out of the studio, and to share our music with other people, because people are hungry to hear what we have to offer. And live music is one moment in time. And I love that also about it. It's not like beautiful artwork or quilted that will last. It's a one-time instant experience. And when you have it shared with an audience, that's that one moment in time that will never be duplicated. Yes. And how magic is that?
Oh, it's the most magic. It's a sandcastle, right? You build it up and then it washes away.
I love that. It's so true.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. And I wonder, you know, I assume you've been in concerts where live music where you receive it, but it doesn't quite touch the heart. Whereas playing harp for preschoolers and having a blanket of energy fall upon them, I would argue, has something to do with the intention behind it. Yeah. So how do you find that? I mean, I personally call it like a tether, a heart tether, where you can, for me, it's like this visual of hooking my heart to theirs. And then I want to communicate from there. Is there an energy with which you perform? Because I've been in your concerts and I can feel it. And I can feel it the entire time. So what are you doing? Are you sure you know?
Probably not. I think number one, it has to be a love. Yeah. You have to love children if you're going to play for them. You have to love older people and understand them, you know, because I'm quickly catching up.
Gradually catching.
But part of it is connecting with the audience. And that's what I think I love about a live performance is being able to read an audience, to be able to see their feedback. You can see the ones that are tapping their toes. And I spent a lot of years playing in retirement homes and playing for memory care, which is really a fun adventure. That's a whole nother, and being able to just kind of see how we connect and what songs resonate with them, what songs they know. So all of that. But in order to do that, you have to do the hard work of learning lots of music.
Right.
You know,
you need a buffet, basically.
Yes. You want to have a nice big repertoire to choose from.
Yes.
And that's kind of our goal. Our theme this year is favorites, and I'm encouraging everyone to at least learn. I'd like to get their top 10 that they can play anytime, anywhere without paper.
I love that.
That's a goal. And someone was saying 10. I said, okay, start with 5. Whatever it takes. But as far as connecting, once again, if you don't have the joy inside, it's not going to be reflected. I want to be salt and light where it just shines through. Whether I say anything or play anything, there needs to be that presence. And then the music allows it to travel. Yeah. And of course, the harp having the acoustic vibrations. Another fun thing is having someone actually touch it or put their ear against it. And then they are now hearing and feeling what I feel. Yeah. And so I'll do that if there's that opportunity. And now they're really connected. It's like, here, put your hand here, put your ear here and see.
It's real.
Yeah. And it's magic.
It's magic. Yeah. And what I'm hearing you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in a concert, it's like your awareness is on audience experience, not on yourself.
No.
At all, right? Which is where, in my arc, that allowed me to release perfectionism.
Yes.
Because if I'm only thinking about my own performance, not only have I clipped the cord, so to speak, between me and the audience, but then that fear and self-awareness creates a performance that feels like fear and self-awareness. So
exactly.
Maybe a key to joy and cultivating that in other people is putting a higher percentage of your attention and your awareness on people around you.
Yes. We do quite a bit on performance anxiety, and because we all deal with it. And so we've had a lot of classes on that.
Oh, yeah.
And I keep reminding everyone it's not about you. And I think our biggest problem is when we perform, we think we have to be the very best in the world at what we're doing, as opposed to making it musical, making it joyful, making it where the audience feels like they are part of it. I don't want to play at someone. I want to play for them, and I want them to be part of it. And so that's where we put our own egos aside. And I've never been a perfectionist by nature, so that hasn't been my problem.
You're so lucky.
But on the flip side, what I tell my ensemble is just do the best you can.
Yeah.
It's good enough. When we all play together, if you miss a couple of notes, somebody else is going to catch it. Now, but here's the catch-22 to that. Because I am conducting as I play, I'm playing louder than them so that I can keep us together, which also means the mistakes you hear are usually mine. Yeah. And I tell them that. I says, the audience is going to hear my mistakes, and there'll be plenty. But I've learned over the years to keep going. My husband was the one who helped me get over making the face every time you make a mistake. He says,
the face.
He told me, he says, you got to stop doing that. You're just giving yourself away. And so now I tell my students, if you see me gently smile, you know what? I just made something, and we're just going to go on.
Yeah.
And I try to get them the same thing. It's like, don't stop. Never say oops, especially in concerts. Don't say, oh, I'm sorry. Even in lessons, I say, you don't need to apologize. Yeah. Do the best you can and keep playing. Yeah. Don't stop.
I hear
you. That's the thing. But I don't worry about the mistakes I make anymore. If the audience enjoys it, if my students feel validated, if they're happy, and they want to play out the next time and say, when's our next date? Then I see that as a success more than how many notes did I get perfect.
Totally.
Totally.
So you're prioritizing the music, the spirituality of music over the performative nature and the flawed nature of performance, which I think that's why audiences feel it. They can feel that's the intent. So, and I mean, the way you play, the way you I mean, I know something about conducting from your instrument too, and it's it is like a multitasking adventure. But it's also it actually creates more mistakes for you because you're wearing too many hats, and that can be seen as a bad thing. But I actually think it's good because your own students see your imperfection. It gives them permission, and makes you human.
Yes.
So I think
absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I don't want them to ever think. And what I tell them is I feel like I'm a leader of a dog sled team. I'm in front of the team, but I've got some college girls that are coming right up behind, and they're nipping at my heels, which I love.
Come and get me.
Yeah, and which is great. And I want that.
Yes.
And I can now cheer their excellence on, and they're starting to compose and create and improvise and doing some amazing things. And the greatest joy for me is seeing their success, which is in areas beyond mine, because they're creating music I've never heard before.
Yeah.
They're doing things that I won't be doing just because they're young and they're talented and motivated. So it's a privilege to see that, but I can rejoice in their excellence and not have to feel like I'm in competition. Doesn't matter.
Which is a sign of a healthy ego. And also it makes me think of the visual I just got was you picking up a bird, and lifting it up and sort of like helping it strengthen its wings. And then it goes. Yeah. And you allow that. And so that's what an amazing arc to witness, as a teacher and a cheerleader. So I do have a question. I'm so curious about this in everybody that I have the privilege to talk to. And my question is, do you think there is a spiritual nature to joy, and I guess perhaps to music? And how would you define that? Maybe I'm asking also about what it is to be human in your opinion, and why are we talking about joy? Why is it so important? And I'm wondering, is there a spiritual aspect to that for you?
Oh, years ago, I was at a women's conference, and the speaker held up a bottle of Joy dishwashing liquid. I love props. I like visual things to help me remember. And she explained joy as Jesus, others, and yourself. And so that made a big impression on me, because what I find is people who are lacking any type of spiritual connection, they don't have a source for joy. And if you're only looking at what the world offers, it's lacking. And that's why we don't see a lot of joy naturally. And that's where it's something that's inside of us, regardless of the circumstances or the grief or hard times. It's an abiding joy, but it's not just for me. It's from our Creator. And fortunately, most of my students are on the same page. I have a couple who aren't. And honestly, they're not as joyful. And, they're on their own path, and they just have missed that part of their lives. Well, and that's where I want to be salt and light, to point the way. Salt is something that's a preservative and makes things taste better. So if that's part of the encouraging part. If I can be an example, I don't want to preach it, but I sure want to live it.
Yeah. No, and you can feel it. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Response, because I think all you can do is be exactly authentically who you are and connect with people from that place and that resource that you have. Yeah. Well, so we're at a point where, first of all, do you have any comments or questions about this idea or curiosity about this, or even this interview, before I ask if there's something you want to show me or teach me about?
Oh, absolutely. As far as this venue, I love that we have the internet. I love that we have a way to reach people around the world. One of my favorite resources for learning new music is YouTube's. And my students, the same thing. If you want to hear different interpretations, listen to lots of different people playing this particular piece. And so we all use it as a great tool. And I think a wonderful tool is just to be able to get messages out. So I'm excited about your project.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that it opens doors to lots more people who are looking for more, whether it's to learn a new instrument or whether it's to find community, you know, in whatever venue it helps them. Is we need to get our joy back.
Yes.
And the times when I've lost my joy is when I've been discouraged or downtrodden or whatever it might be. But for my own self, music is a vehicle to not only experience joy, but to share it with others. So I'm hoping that this will reach other people who are maybe thinking, you know, something's missing.
Yeah. And they can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a follow-up question to that, if pretend you have somebody listening to this and they don't tend to connect to music specifically,
right.
what would you encourage them to do to find it within them, find that joy?
Well, first of all, to look at their favorite hobbies. I mean, there's a lot of people who find their joy in nature and going out and experiencing that. But I think we need to connect with other people that are like-minded. So perhaps finding other people to share that experience with, not to feel like we have to do things alone. I think we're created to be with others and to have, in my own case, we don't have much family. So my students have become my family and my best friends. And so that would be one encouragement. Everyone has a favorite hobby, whether it's birding or, like, say, backpacking or whatever it might be.
Yes.
Is if there isn't a group in your area, start one. I started a studio from scratch. My first year, by the end of the year, had maybe 7, you know, at the end of the year. And now there's over 30 in our little community here. And I'm happy. It's enough. I'm not looking, I mean, there's always room for more. But it's not about numbers. It's about having real relationships, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. It doesn't matter.
I love that.
You know,
I love that.
Yeah.
I read, I think it's interesting that you would point them to a hobby because I read a lovely book by Oliver Berkman who he's trying to teach about time management and meditation from the perspective of we're all going to die. So think about, you know, what you want to do in this life. And he was exploring the idea of hobbies as a thing that you never perfect. And I think that's a crucial piece here. It's looking for a curiosity that we have and something perhaps to do with our hands or our bodies that connects us to community. And I think that's, I wonder if that's just a feature built in within us to help us meet one another and bring out that community and joy.
Yeah.
So
we were just talking yesterday about flow. My last student yesterday, she was talking about, she was playing on the harp and she does a lot of her own improv. And I told her, I says, do you ever have where you work on and you're playing something for a while and just time passes? She says, oh yeah, an hour or two can go by just like that. So that's the flow. And to get into that state, I know a lot of artists experience when they're painting. And there's probably lots of other hobbies that do that. But it's that special place. I've experienced it a couple times where I might be playing like at a wedding or a long background gig, and I'll get to a point where I don't even see people around me. It's just myself and the instrument and the music, and everything else just kind of fades away. And it's a magical place because it's like time is irrelevant. And it doesn't matter who's listening or who isn't. It's not about that. It's about sharing something, but also experiencing. That's why I say when I'm playing, that's my joy.
Yes, because you're fully in that present moment.
In that present. I know some people call it mindfulness, and there's lots of different terminology.
But it's a feeling.
You know, it is. Now, you mentioned a book. So another thing people could do is the book clubs. You know, that's another communal thing. They have the communal running groups and that type of thing. I just happened to choose something sedentary like playing music.
Come on.
That's more my style.
Actually, funny story. My mother-in-law plays the dulcimer with you occasionally, but she likes to wear her Fitbit while she does. And it gives her steps from doing this. And she's like, I just did. Like, it was like 100 steps. I thought that was the funniest. So it's not that sedentary.
Well, that's true because I can feel it in my shoulder, and my arms when
we
I'm
need
really
some
working
work
out.
done because it's not that.
Depending on how hard I've been playing. And all of that,
angry dulcimer playing, I'm sure is
it's a good avenue. What's percussive?
Exactly.
It's a great way to get some different anxieties out, and that's very true.
That's it. Well, and now I was wondering, would you teach me something that brings you joy? And we'll pause for a minute if you're willing.
Of course.
And if you would like to talk about it first before we get to that place, because I would love to receive that experience from you.
Okay.
And just
certainly.
All right. Robin is my local music teacher hero because she offers so much more than a simple music lesson. She is a creator and a leader, but she does these things by providing a musical sanctuary. As she teaches me how to strike the first few strings on a dulcimer.
Are we on?
Is this happening?
That's okay.
I am filled with delight. The foreign nature of this trapezoidal instrument is a total puzzle for me. Visually confusing, like piano strings folded into origami. I can tell that I have to learn to trust my eyes and hands in a completely new way.
And what you're finding out, this is all about eye-hand coordination.
Yes.
That's one thing unique about this compared to the harp, where they're all evenly spaced and they're in a row, or a keyboard where we can feel with our eyes closed, we can play because we know where we are. This is all visual.
You have to watch
and you have to aim, and so it's developing a different part of the brain that we wouldn't be using with the other two instruments, because this is all about aiming and tone and technique.
I'm a recovering perfectionist, and part of my recovery is the absolute need to laugh at my mistakes. Robin is right there with me, giggling in glee when I strike a wrong note, because it's all part of the process. There is so much freedom in being taught. When my expertise doesn't serve me, when I don't know where my hands go, there's only the instrument and Robin. She's like a dog trainer, patiently showing me how to trot alongside her. Oh, this is such a fascinating instrument.
It is.
I can feel my brain thinkies, as my son would say, working.
Yes. And see, I'm feeling great joy watching you play.
I have all kinds of feelings.
Yeah. But see,
it's so fun.
It is fun. And that's the quirky thing about it. It's so unique. It's so different than anything else. That's all right.
After the dulcimer, we moved right into the harp. The harp is super difficult for me, but I can feel how successful I am in these few minutes because of the gentle, super tapped-in guide that I have in Robin.
Make sure you're on different strings.
Okay, so the thumb plays the C.
High thumb. Relax.
This is hard. She pushes me when she can see that I can walk further.
The normal student wouldn't get two hands together for a couple of lessons, but since you're a super achiever, I'll show you how it would work. Okay.
And helpfully, she corrects me and points out habits that I'll need to pay attention to right now if I want to keep playing this thing.
With harp, and I started out that way, but you find out you'll never get the smoothness and the speed if you don't pre-place and you just grab in clumps. It's like you shake hands with the harp, you're grabbing them as units as opposed to individual notes.
Ah,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Robin has this nurturing style, this seat of the teacher that makes me feel completely wrapped up in a blanket of love and music. I know why she has so many older adult students. It's because she nurtures the joy of vulnerability and the pleasure of learning.
Nice. Yes.
And I know why she has so many young and teenage students. Robin wants to play. It's all about playing together.
Now, where's your other two fingers?
Oh no, they're here.
Yeah.
Oh I want this sound.
There you go.
I need my fingers placed. Come on, Katie. Robin brings her heart and her wisdom to everything she does. She is totally a cheerleader.
If you decide you want to learn it just for you.
Oh my gosh.
It's something new and something different, but I guarantee you it will open up a whole nother pathway.
But I think she's also a lighthouse. And I think she calls people who are searching for music, for joy, and for community. She houses them, she nurtures them, and it's so, so beautiful. Hey, hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I ask each guest to share a song that brings them joy. See the show notes below for a song from today's guest. For more music, you can also find a link to the Joyful Forklift Spotify playlist. Help us continue to spread joy by subscribing to or following the channel. To sign up for our newsletter and to learn more about us, visit joyfulforklift.com.